Hey everybody, it is Dak here from Theed Boys, and welcome to my 1 to 99 Magic Guide. The goal of this guide is to give you any information that I feel you need to know about training your magic at any level on your way to 99. These are not all the total methods that can be used to train magic, just the ones that I prefer to use. In this guide, I'm going to start with the quests that you could do to get a little bit of a boost in your early levels in magic. Then I'll discuss a couple of magic topics like different spellbooks, staffs, and splashing. Then we'll jump into the leveling guide, which are the methods that I would use to get to 99 magic. Afterwards, we're going to have some alt methods and even some money-making options to get your skill cape. Here's a list of quests you could do to get a head start in your magic training. The Witch's Potion and Imp Catcher are 0 requirement beginner quests that are going to take you to 10 magic out of the gate, and the other quests have a few more requirements to get it going, but you can still get some good magic XP from it. Magic is pretty fast overall, so the early quests aren't extremely important, but if you want to see a full list of quests, I have left a link in the description. There are 4 different spellbooks in OSRS. The standard spellbook that you have unlocked the moment you start your account, the Ancient Magic spellbook, which is heavily focused on combat spells and requires the completion of Desert Treasure to use. You've got the Lunar spellbook, which is more focused around skilling and requires you to have the Lunar Diplomacy quest to use, and even Dream Mentor to be able to use all of the spells. And lastly, we have the Arceus spellbook, which is focused on ensouled heads for prayer training. If you plan on getting any prayer training in, you should do it before magic if you're going to do ensouled heads, that way you get that magic XP from them, but just doing ensouled heads is not good XP per hour in magic. All magic attacks require runes to cast. For magic spells, you can bring all the runes you need with you, but you can also equip an elemental staff, which is going to count as an unlimited amount of whatever rune the staff works for. So it's a high alch, you would usually need 5 fire runes and a nature rune, but you could wield a staff of fire and you only need 1 nature rune per alch. There are combination staves just like combination runes, so a mud staff's going to count as unlimited mud runes, aka water runes and earth runes. Most staves don't save a ton of money in the long run, but eventually you do have spells that require like 10 of a certain type of runes, so it is kind of nice to have. Before we get into the leveling guide, let's talk about splashing. When you cast a spell that has a chance to land or splash, you can land a combat magic spell and still hit a 0, with splashing guarantees that you hit a 0. If you use a spell that isn't combat and just maybe lower some stats or other effects, if the spell splashes, nothing's going to happen at all, but you still get XP when you splash. Generally, you get more XP when you land the hit, but splashing can still be beneficial. For magic training, you're just trying to constantly use spells, so if you kill a monster and you have to wait for it to respawn, that's going to slow you down a little bit. Or if you're lowering, say, a monster's defense level, it can only go so low. So once you lower that defense enough, you got to wait for the monster's stats to regen before you can use the spell again. If you're splashing instead, though, you can use those spells over and over and over again without having to stop. Splashing depends on your magic bonus. Higher magic bonus gives you a lower chance to splash, but if you get your magic bonus as low as -65, then you're guaranteed to splash every attack. Here's the setup that I use to get to -65 magic. Bronze gear gets you almost all the way there, but I added a cursed goblin staff to finish the job. You can buy this staff from Django for 45 coins in the Draenor village. If you're trying to use a different staff for your runes, you can instead wear green d'hide vamps, though they do require 40 range to wear. A lot of players splash on the rats outside of the Lumbery Castle, or the demon on top of the Wizard's Tower in Draenor Village. I like to use the monk that's caged in the Varrock Palace. There's tons of monsters around RuneScape that are very easy to safe spot and splash on though. Let's get into that leveling guide. About time. At level 1, you can only use Wind Strike, which takes 1 air rune and 1 mind rune per cast. This should only take about 120 casts, and you should be splashing for this one. There's more unlocks before level 7, but the difference in XP rates is very minimal since it only takes a few minutes to get these levels anyways. Levels 7 to 19, you should start enchanting Sapphire Rings into Rings of Recoil. Level 1 enchant requires 1 Cosmic and 1 Water rune, and you're still on the standard spellbook. These tend to profit fairly well for how low of a level requirement they are, but it's a little bit more click intensive since you have to use the spell on each piece of jewelry. There's a lot of sapphire jewelry, even opal jewelry that you can do this with, but I find the Rings of Recoil tend to have better GP to XP rates. I have left links in the description to some GP to XP calculators so that you can all get an idea of how much money you might be spending or making for any sections of this guide. You will need to enchant 190 rings for this section. Levels 19 to 27, you can move back to splashing, but this time you're going to be using the Curse spell. This spell requires 1 body rune, 3 earth runes, and 2 water runes, and it's on the standard spellbook. This is more click intensive than airstrike splashing since you can't use autocast, but you only need 199 spells to get through this section. Levels 27 to 43, we're back to enchanting. This time it's Rings of Dueling that I would go for. We're still rocking the standard spellbook, and each of these spells only requires 1 cosmic rune and 3 air runes. This doesn't profit as much as Rings of Recoil, but it still tends to profit, or at the very least, it's going to be one of the cheapest methods you do. You are going to need to make 1,098 Rings of Dueling for this section of the guide. Levels 43 to 49, I would use Superheat item on gold ores. This is a lot pricier than emerald rings, and it's not really a huge XP boost, but it also gives some smithing XP too. Keep in mind though, you need at least 40 smithing to smelt gold ore into a bar, and you will get much more smithing XP if you're wearing goldsmith gauntlets while you do this. Each spell requires a nature rune and 4 fire runes, and you only need 781 spells. You could stick to enchanting for these levels if you're not tired of it, but I find Superheat item is a nice break from what we're about to get into. 49 to 55 magic, you can start using level 3 enchants. Of course, these are still on the standard spellbook, and they only require 1 cosmic rune and 5 fire runes to cast. I choose to make amulets of strength out of ruby amulets for this spell. They tend to just about break even and are pretty solid XP rates. Some of you might be getting tired of enchanting at this point, but you only need 1,270 amulets to get through this section. Ruby amulets aren't sold a whole lot in the GE, but you don't need to buy very many of them. Levels 55 to 76, I would get into High Alchs. You'll notice that this is a little bit slower than level 3 enchant, but it's a little less crappy on the wrist and allows you to watch a little bit of YouTube or Netflix while you get it done. Each cast requires a nature rune and 5 fire runes, and the spell is on the standard spellbook. A lot of players what items they should be alching to either profit or lose the least money. I usually stick to longbows since they tend to break just about even, but I have left a link in the description to Alchmate, which is a site that'll give you some recent numbers on items' alch price compared to the GE price. You can leave noted items in the right spot in your inventory so that you don't have to actually move your mouse at all, just click. Alching is a very straightforward training method and can even be done while you're training agility or doing other activities. It's not the fastest method around this level, but it is my preferred method. You are going to need 17,998 alchs to get through this section. Levels 76 to 80, I would move on to Spinning Flax, which is on the Lunar spellbook. Each cast of this spell turns 5 flax into bowstring, and to use this method tends to break even in terms of cost. It's a little faster mage XP than alching, but also gives solid crafting XP, which is why I choose to use it. Each spell requires 2 nature runes, 1 astral rune, and 5 air runes. You do need to cast this spell 8,662 times to get through this section. Levels 80 to 94, you can start using the String Jewelry spell. This is not a bad spell to go all the way to 99 with either. String Jewelry is going to turn unstrung amulets into regular amulets without the need of a ball of wool. It is one of the more AFK methods out there. Each spell requires 2 astral runes, 10 earth runes, 5 water runes, and an unstrung amulet. I stick with the gold amulets myself. Not only is this method much more AFK than other methods, but it's a lot faster too. The difference is how pricey it is, costing a lot of money for the full section. You're going to need 71,790 casts to get through these levels. Levels 94 to 99, I would barrage Maniacal Monkeys. You need to partially complete Monkey Madness 2 to unlock the agility tunnel that they are located in, and because barrage spells are on the ancient spellbook, you also have to do Desert Treasure. They're very straightforward to kill. You just want to bring your best mage gear and some prayer bonus stuff like Proselyte to barrage them, and make sure you're always praying melee. You don't have to use Ice Barrage since it is more expensive, but it's the fastest XP you can get here. You can get some wild mage XP rates in here, but I usually take it pretty easy and stay around 250 to 300k XP an hour since I do AFK a lot. Your XP can be different depending on your gear and what mage level you're currently at. If you bring a Bone Crusher with you, this can also give over 20k prayer XP per hour, and you could potentially use the Dragon Bone Necklace or the Bone Crusher Necklace to help with prayer points, but it's not really needed since you do have those 1-dose prayer potion drops, and it's really not a good idea to take off your occult necklace. This is an expensive but fast way to get your mage to 99, but it's not unreasonable to just string amulets all the way to 99. Let's talk about some alt methods if you don't like the ones that we've gone through already. I'll start with teleports since they are lower level requirements. These tend to be very expensive for low level training, but you only have to click in one spot similar to alching, so it is preferred if you're trying to watch something or you just don't want the method to be quite as click intensive. Also, you only need to do these for lower levels if you do them, so even if they're more pricey, you don't go through a lot of XP, so you don't need to spend a lot of money. At 80 magic, you can start using Stun, which similar to Curse, you can just splash on this spell to the Caged Monk, but unlike Curse, you're also high enough level at this point that you can use High Alch when you do this. This is a very click-intensive method and kind of a pain overall, but it does have very good XP rates without being extremely expensive. I'm not a huge fan of Stun Alch, but it is a viable method for magic training. At 86 magic, you can use Plank Make. This is a speedy way to get 99 magic without being ridiculously expensive, though it is pretty click intensive, similar to enchanting jewelry. This spell is not only on the Lunar spellbook, but you do have to do Dream Mentor to use it, and each cast requires 1 nature rune, 2 astral runes, and 15 earth runes. You still need to spend some coins for each plank, similar to how you need to spend coins when you're making planks at the sawmill, but it is less coins per plank than a normal sawmill. You get the same amount of XP and magic per plank, and currently the higher tier planks tend to end up costing less money. I have left a link in the description to the wikis page on Plank Make, which has a nice table comparing the current cost per spell for each plank. For medium levels, Mage Training Arena is not a bad place to get some magic XP. You do need to unlock Bones to Peaches for a diary requirement, so you're going to be there eventually. And even as an Iron Man, this is the only place to get your Infinity Armor, your Master Wand, or even your Mage's Book. Even on a main, if you get those items, it adds up to some decent cash per hour for magic. A lot of players don't really like the Mage Training Arena overall, but it's not a bad place to get some of those mid-levels, like somewhere between 60 and 80 magic. There are some more enjoyable moneymakers out there for magic. At 77, you can use the Super Glass Make spell, which does give decent XP rates in magic, but pretty good XP rates in crafting too. This method can also profit a few hundred K per hour depending on the current prices. The spell is on the Lunar Spellbook and requires 2 Astral Runes, 6 Fire Runes, and 10 Air Runes per cast. You could take out an even number of sand buckets and regular seaweed per inventory, but I do suggest using giant seaweed for better profits. If you take out 2 giant seaweed and 12 buckets per invi, you'll get better XP rates, but if you instead take 3 giant seaweed and 18 buckets, you're going to get more molten glass per cast. It's just going to slow your XP down since you have to pick some of the glass up off the ground, but if you're here more specifically for the moneymaker, this is a faster way to make money with this method. At 78 magic, you can use the Tan Leather spell. Each cast of this spell turns 5 hides into leather, could be cowhide or dragon hide. Most dragon hides hover around the same profit per hour, so it doesn't make a huge difference which hides you choose, but I tend to stick to the green ones. The spell is on the Lunar Spellbook and also requires the Fremennik Hard Diaries to do. You need 1 Nature Rune, 2 Astral Runes, and 5 Fire Runes per cast. This is some of the better XP you can get in magic while profiting, and it's really not very difficult, so this gets a thumbs up from me. Here's an interesting moneymaker from the Lunar Spellbook. At 89 magic, you can use Recharge Dragonstone, which fully charges any enchanted Dragonstone jewelry in your inventory, for example, Amulets of Glory. You can do over 20,000 glories an hour like this since you can do 27 per spell, but 20,000 plus glories cost over 200 mil at a time, and it's going to take a lot of time to buy, so even though this method could make 6 to 8 mil an hour, getting a full hour's worth is pretty unreasonable, but it is a unique moneymaker. I can end with a moneymaker that you can actually do for multiple hours in a row. Fire Orbs are not fast mage XP, but they do get 500k plus GP per hour, which is pretty solid for fairly AFK skilling. It is highly suggested to have 80 agility for Fire Orbs to use the high level agility shortcut in the Taverley dungeon, and you need 63 magic to use this spell, making this a mid to high level requirement moneymaker, but not really that difficult to get to, just the agility is going to ward some people off. I don't suggest using Fire Orbs to get to 99 magic, but using them for a little AFK time here and there is not a bad way to add up some extra mage XP. I believe that's all the information I wanted to give you about magic, everybody. If you still have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments section below so I can get back to you as soon as possible. If you have some tips of your own for training magic, feel free to leave those in the comments section too, since everyone here is looking for information on the best way for them to get 99 magic. Thank you for watching, everybody. If you enjoyed the video or you got some useful information, be sure to drop a like and subscribe for more content. Thanks again for watching, and best of luck in your mage training.